So today we have an interview with the developers of the upcoming Virtua Fighter on how they're planning to try to bridge that generational gap and appease original VF players while also trying to bring on a newer generation. We're also going to take a look at the brand new Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PC features trailer, which shows off the game in dazzling 4K 120 frames per second. It looks pretty sick. So if any of that sounds cool to you, feel free to click the like button, and if you're new here and you'd like to stick around and help support the channel, you can subscribe, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. So starting off first with that VF news, this comes to us from a Famitsu interview that was translated by the folks over at Event Hubs. And in this article, they speak with the Sega executive, Masayoshi Yokoyama, and the producer for the upcoming Virtua Fighter, Richiro Yamada. And their main focus of this article is how do they bridge that generational gap and appease the original VF players while also trying to bring in new players, especially for something like Virtua Fighter, which has been lying dormant for so long. So Yokoyama would go on to say, for this project, we need to make it a bridge between Virtua Fighter's past and its future. While we're trying to bring it to a worldwide audience to enjoy, we also need to look at all the people who have loved Virtua Fighter up until now and the people who will love Virtua Fighter in the future and how to fuse them all together. It's something we're planning on spending a lot of time facing in an upfront manner. Yamada then adds, there wasn't anything public until our announcement, but we're working on building up the player community. It'll be difficult to bridge the gap of more than 10 years, but. Now that is a very interesting problem to have because I feel like franchises like Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat haven't really struggled with this issue in particular because they've always been pretty consistent about releasing new games and always staying within the public eye, regardless of how popular or well received each of the games end up being. When a new Mortal Kombat comes out, people know a new Mortal Kombat's coming out and they'll play it, a new Tekken, a new Street Fighter. But for Virtua Fighter, it's been lying dormant for so long now that there's an entire generation of people who probably grew up either not knowing about Virtua Fighter, thus not playing it, or having heard about it from older people like us who scream at the clouds like, when are we going to get a new Virtua Fighter? And that's really their only familiarity with it. So trying to find a way to bring a younger generation to find interest into your game, something a lot of developers I think struggle with. Case in point, Final Fantasy. Whether it was trying to get younger players or trying to get new people, that was something they really struggled with Final Fantasy 16, and even to an extent Final Fantasy VII Remake's trilogy of how do we make a game that old Final Fantasy fans will love and enjoy, but also how do we bring on that newer generation? Which kind of leads into the next section of the article where the developers say that they actually do have a combination of people who are young and have never heard of Virtua Fighter or never played it, or people who are young and did do their research and did actually play some of the games so they know at least a little bit about what VF actually is. And the last quote from Yamada might make some fighting game fans a little bit nervous, which leads into a bigger discussion, but he goes on to say, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but we don't want the current generation of gamers to feel like that game has nothing to do with us. We want them to know that we're making a new Virtua Fighter from zero, which is aimed at people playing the series for the first time. Now, a lot of old VF heads, a lot of old fighting game heads might read that and freak out and be like, oh god, they're making a new game, it's for the younger generation, it's gonna have super easy auto combos and one button specials that you just press and you do something super crazy and just kill your opponent immediately. I don't necessarily think that's the route they're going to go because, again, they understand what Virtua Fighter is. I don't think they're going to try and make it into something it's not. It's just really trying to make it as appealing as possible. Which kind of leads into the conversation that's been had for many, many years now, seemingly every time a new fighting game has been released, is do the developers dumb down their game and make it super easy with simple inputs to try and get in a newer audience to enjoy their game? Or do they keep it complex and deep while also giving people, more accessibility, things that make doing cooler, flashier things a little bit easier, but kind of give it a little bit of a handicap and drawback because it's not going to be as good? And when it comes to fighting games, I don't think developers need to and probably shouldn't dumb down their game to try to appeal to other people. The people that find interest in these games will find a way to play it and learn, and if they don't enjoy it, then they'll drop it and find something else. I think two really good examples of this would be Street Fighter VI and Tekken 8. Those games are still very deep and complex and do require a learning curve for people that don't have that legacy skill when it comes to playing them. But they do add some features that make it really fun for casual people to just pick up a controller, press a few buttons, and they're doing really cool stuff. It's stuff that looks flashy. It might not be optimal in terms of gameplay. It's not going to be your best combo or your highest damage combo, but it looks really cool. And sometimes that is enough to get someone to go, hey, I actually think I want to learn how to do this for realsies. No more auto combos or one button specials. I want to actually get into training mode, learn these combos, learn the timing, the frame data, and actually kind of do it myself for real. And I think that's what Virtua Fighter should do. They should still make Virtua Fighter as deep and complex as it's always been, but kind of provide some of the accessibility stuff as a gateway to allow people to do the cooler, flashier stuff, which based on what we know so far would be a lot of that dynamic blocking, which looks super cool. But you've now given your player a choice by doing that. They can continue to do the simpler, accessible auto stuff, or they could veer off to another path and decide to actually learn to play the game and learn those combos and actually figure out the system and potentially become really good at it. So it's definitely an interesting issue for the Sega devs to have with Virtua Fighter. It's been gone for so long. You really got to work hard to get it back into the public eye. People like myself, a lot of the older people within the FGC who grew up playing these games, or at least were aware of them, we're going to check this out no matter what. But trying to grab that younger audience, again, it might be a little difficult, but I think that they can actually do it. So it's a delicate process to kind of balance. But another way that they can kind of get Virtua Fighter in front of younger generations is by doing collaborations. A collaboration that makes all the sense in the world is with Tekken. We know that there's going to be another season of Tekken characters with another guest. It would make sense for it to be a Virtua Fighter character. Katsuhiro Harada, big Virtua Fighter fan, he's not going to pass up on the opportunity to have someone in Tekken from VF, like an Akira, because now you put a VF character in front of a younger person who might not recognize them. You know, maybe they're playing Tekken and they're really young and they're like Skibbity Sigma Riz King, whatever. And they see this Akira dude and they're like, what's this Akira dude? What's he from? And that might lead them to go into Virtua Fighter. So you might have created a new fan. So it's super interesting. I think it's an issue that they probably won't struggle with. Just make a great Virtua Fighter and people will gravitate to it, I think, you know? So to move over to that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth PC trailer, which is phenomenal. It looks so beautiful. I'll leave a link in the description so you guys can actually watch it in 4K, preferably on a TV that is massive, that can really showcase how gorgeous this game is going to look on the PC side of things. Now, in this trailer, they focus on all of the improvements that the PC version is going to have. So we're going to be pulling from the trailer, but we're also going to be pulling from an article from SquareEnix.com where they kind of go over a little bit more detail. And the first thing they start off with is the improved lighting. And that was one of my issues on the console version of Rebirth, is that the lighting was just really kind of inconsistent, which was an issue that 7 Remake also had. Some of the outdoor daytime stuff looked a little weird. I think a little overexposed, kind of washed out at times, but at night, the games looked gorgeous. Like the Sector 7 slums at night with all of the neon popping, the night sky, it just looked really, really good. During the day, kind of looked like doo-doo, but you know, it's the slums, what do you expect? But just seeing all of the different showcases for that lighting, the beach scene in Costa del Sol in particular, you see Red 13 lying there, the way that the shadows hit him, even the light that his tail gives off on like the pole behind him, it all looks really well done. And that goes hand in hand with the improved visuals in general, whether it's the lighting, improved character models, which they have way more detail on their faces. There's a lot of close-up shots in this trailer of Cloud, Aerith, Tifa in particular, where you just see all of the detail on their skin, the pores, all of the different strands of hair that are connected out of their head. It's insane how much work they put into these character models. There's also one of the bigger ones, which is the improved textures. And that also seems to extend to the entirety of the environment. Foliage, while it doesn't look like it moves, looks way more beautiful than it did on the console side of things. I'm assuming that the texture pop-in will also be gone on the PC because the PC doesn't really struggle with those things. They can improve upon it, so I wouldn't expect there to be bad draw distances or any of the weird texture issues we had on the console side of things. And you'll be able to play with a maximum resolution of 4K with a max frame rate of 120 frames per second. And with that, it will come with a range of graphical settings, which is really nice because if I remember correctly, when 7 Remake released on PC, it was pretty bare bones in terms of its graphical settings. I think there was really only a few things you could change to kind of help improve the visuals of that game. But Hamaguchi-san has done so many interviews recently where they're saying that they're really prioritizing as many graphical options and settings as possible to give people a wide range of options. So whether you have a low-end PC or a high-end PC, they want everyone to be able to experience this game in the best way possible. So you'll have the 3 graphical options of low, medium, and high, which when I did game on PC back in the day, I always appreciated that stuff. I'm not super well versed when it comes to PC settings, especially nowadays. There's just so much going on. There's like NVIDIA DLSS, there's VRR, there's MTV, VH1, BBC, so many overwhelming options. I don't know what half of these things do. So if you give me an option that says, yeah, just give me ultra settings or medium settings, I'm a happy boy. I can figure out the rest from there. And based on the information from that trailer, the NVIDIA DLS functionality stuff includes things like faster frame rates while also utilizing upscaled image quality. So if that works anything like AI upscaling, then maybe you can set the resolution a little bit lower while also get the benefits of a higher graphical settings that, again, I'm super not versed when it comes to the gaming side of these settings. So you'll have to let me know in the comments down below how a lot of this stuff does work. It will have support for mouse and keyboard, which is super nice, but also the DualSense controller. Now, I didn't watch anyone play 7 Remake on PC using a keyboard and a mouse, so I don't know how the controls actually work. Are you controlling your character with WASD and then using the mouse to go through your menu to select commands? I'd be very curious to see how that works. But I feel like this is a game that is obviously optimized for controller. I think that's going to be the best way to play it. I don't think you necessarily need the DualSense. There are some mini games that incorporate DualSense functionality. I remember that mushroom picking game in Gungaga where you had to figure out the tightness of the mushroom through the DualSense controller, which was actually pretty cool. And then there are some more contextual moments during some cutscenes where you're like crawling through things and resisting things with the triggers, which is pretty cool. But all in all, if you don't use the DualSense, I don't think you're going to be missing out too much on that stuff. And here's a really cool feature that maybe some people don't really pay a lot of attention to, but you can customize the amount of on-screen NPCs to suit your computer's specs, which is pretty cool. So if someone playing this on a beefy PC can now go through Junon and have way more population dense stuff on the screen. Costa del Sol in particular will probably have way more people now, assuming your computer can actually handle it. So it'll be super cool to see how much more populated these areas can actually get, while pushing the frame rates and the graphical fidelity to see if anything actually buckles. Another spot that kind of pops out is in Junon when you get to the helipad area and there's all those soldiers, there's the high wind there. You could probably have a super densely populated section of that game with those settings turned up. And then of course they are working on a Steam Deck version to optimize the game for a Steam Deck, and hopefully it does work. I know there's been some people leaving comments saying that they really do want to play the game on the Steam Deck, and having this game on the go, pretty awesome. So all in all, the PC version of Rebirth seems to be a massive step up from what they did with 7 Remake. My one hope is that it does perform really well, and I'm not just talking about sales, I'm talking about the actual technical aspects of Rebirth on PC. I know Square Enix games and their ports on PC tend to be a little rocky at launch. 7 Remake had some issues, although those were resolved within a few days by the community who played the game. 16 also kind of had a bit of an inconsistent start. Some people were able to play the game no problem. Other people had massive issues when it came to frame pacing and some of the stuttering and things just not working right. So I really hope that they're able to get Rebirth's PC version launching smoothly so as many people as possible can play it and actually have a really good experience and first impression with it. And everything so far looks great. All of the different graphical options that they're now giving people instead of having it be bare bones, the mouse and keyboard support, DualSense support, being able to also map your controls, I believe, if you use the mouse and keyboard, so you can just kind of make a custom setup that works best for you. All of the improved visuals, it looks great, and I can't wait to see people playing this game on max settings, beefiest PC possible, because I really want to see just how good this game can actually look, because I thought it looked really good on the Pro, but there's really only so much that the Pro and that AI upscaling pisser technology can really do when it comes to the console side of things, but when you're on PC, you've got way more horsepower that you can utilize, way more graphical tech that you can utilize. So with that being said, that is the video. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of this VF news? Do you think they're gonna struggle to keep the identity of Virtua Fighter while also trying to appeal to a younger audience? And will you be picking up Rebirth on PC? And if so, I'd be very curious to hear. Are you someone who's playing Rebirth for the very first time, meaning you skipped out on the PS5 version because you were waiting for the PC version? Or have you played Rebirth already and you're just gonna double dip and get it on PC? Let me know in the comments down below. I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.